the recording started.
Thanks. Okay, we'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 3, opening remarks. If the town manager or the superintendent have any.
Town manager here, Mr. Garrett.
I see him signed in.
You know if he had anything this week?
Mr. Dutton? Well,
No.
I guess not.
All right.
How about yourself?
Nothing much from the last time, Mr. Garish, other than, the demo is obviously complete. The 90% is up at MSBA. We did receive correspondence back from Sarah MSBA that they have received it, and they are reviewing the information. And if they have any clarifying questions that they need to ask, they will be sending that out to us momentarily, and we'll bring you folks up to speed on that at an upcoming meeting. Other than that, we're getting ready to embark upon our venture of the hybrid start to our school year and remote learning. So we are ready to go, but still have a focus on this project as well. So that's all we have this evening.
Hey, I'll give you $20 for those wet wipes you got back there.
These are gold. Kidding me? I put this on eBay right now. You kidding me? They still do eBay. I don't know if that's a thing. Yeah, those are hard to come by. We're stockpiling those. So.
All right, thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 4, the OPM update.
All right, thank you, John. Let me just share my screen. All right, can everyone see the presentation?
Yep.
So progress report, as Derek noted, the building takedown is substantially complete. Debris has been removed. There's about 1 crew day left of contract work, and we have some now reduced change order work that they've been holding off that final day so that they can mobilize just once and combine it with the change work that we've asked them to complete. The major milestone since the last meeting was the successful submission to MSBA with the 90% set. As Derek said, we did hear back from MSBA that their initial review as far as it being a complete package was positive. They had no comments there and have started their detailed review. Next slide. Just a rundown of the schedule milestones. We're now through the first half of this slide. We're into the bid documents phase that you see there for September, October. We have bidding and award into October through December, and then obviously our construction period. Next slide's a little more detailed schedule. See the CD bid documents period, September to October. Those documents will have been reviewed, sent to the electronic bidding third party and commented on from them and issued to bidders by October 27th. That starts the bidding and award period. The file subtrades, the subcontractors who are specially designated as file subbidders, their bids are due November 19th. The general contractors will be selecting those file subbids and submitting a bid of their own, including those. So we've given them until December 3rd. Then, as we'll see in one of these following slides, with the upcoming SBC meeting schedule, it's been revised to have a meeting fall directly after when the bids are due. That would be December 7th, where we'll review the bids and approve the award. In the construction period, just a little more detailed, We would issue a notice to proceed following the SBC meeting vote on the 7th by December 14th. And the substantial completion date, we've now revised it to July 8th. It was July 22nd, and just in a reanalysis of the construction schedule, in-house and with RDA, we thought it made sense to pull it back to July 8th to give some more time after substantial completion for move-in and final completion. So upcoming meetings. So we already had the September 28th meeting on the schedule. These next two dates are revised dates, October 19th, which gives us a little time before the issuance of the bid set after that. And then, as I said, December 7th, which will follow the general contractor's bid due date. Project budget remains the same on this slide. Next slide shows the pro-pay breakdown of payments. Original budget remains. MSBA reimbursement rate remains. Right now we have 2 pro-pay applications signed by us and Derek into MSBA. That's 12 and 13. That makes up the balance of what we've been paid versus what we've submitted as eligible. And that was the last slide.
Michael, can we go back to the dates? Yeah. Okay. So maybe you or Joe could talk a little bit about substantial completion. And I'm thinking here for the superintendent and facilities, what happens before and after that. That's right before the new school year will start, right? With a new school building. And let me ask, the substantial completion, is that the TCO where the building can start to be occupied or moving things in? If you could just cover that, explain to us what's going on that date and thereafter.
Mike, go over the dates and then I'll go over, the reasons why we felt like moving the date back to July 8th made more sense.
What's that? The original date being the 22nd?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, go ahead. Yep. So Joe, I was just thinking you could explain
Sure.
what can happen, beginning on the 8th and why it's important to have more time between the TCO and the opening of school.
And it's very important to have more time for the school district's end of it rather than the general contractor. Although substantial completion, that term is, the building is ready for its intended use. And typically 9 out of 10 projects are, the substantial completion is issued once the, certificate of occupancy is issued from the building inspector or building commissioner. What that means, though, is that from July 8th through the time that you decide to open up school, there's a duration of a lot of activities that have to occur from July 8th. Furniture move-in will be a portion of it. Setup for most of the computer network will be part of it. So the district will need substantial amount of time, to get the building up and running on their behalf. They're going to be, well-informed, trained. There's a lot of training that happens prior to substantial completion. We try to start that. More than likely, we'll start that in March or April so that we have enough time to train a number of different staff members because, staff members tend to move on through their careers, and we like to make sure that they're videoed and documented appropriately so that, anyone stepping into it has a good grasp of what's going on. The district, after the furniture's moved in and the IT and technology is set up, teachers need time to set up their own classrooms, even into a new school of that nature. And then there's issues that we'll be going through with, the HVAC, any of the mechanical systems. We're going to want time to run them ahead of time so that we can work out any glitches, if any, as we move forward to actually the occupancy and start of school. So we felt, as well as the design team, Gene, Jeff, Michael, and Richard, and I had talked this through pretty extensively. And I just felt moving back the date to the 8th made more sense to give the district more time. And we felt, that the times length of duration of construction was adequate to construct this size school with any of the general contractors that we pre-qualified, John.
Okay, so the furniture, the commissioning, the HVAC, working out the bugs, that's all going to take place before July 8th. That's the intent, right?
Well, the July 8th date is when they substantially are complete. Most of the training will happen prior to that. The HVAC, you know, there's startups, there's balancing reports that are all issued prior to substantial completion. What I'm suggesting is that, you know, there's a cooling and a heating season that you're going to be engaging in this, and you'll have the opportunity to not only cool the building during the summer months to make sure that that system's operational and working appropriately, but you'll have time as that system moves into the cooling season, when you start to get those, you know, the late August, early September days, that heating is going to be needed. And that transition of that system, that integration of the energy management program that, you know, your director of facilities will be heavily involved with, you'll go through some bugs. I mean, you know, we have a commissioning agent, and they're going to do a test point from point A to point B to make sure that everything's operational. But as the system acclimates and actually gets used, there's some, you know, sometimes there's bugs that get, you know, pushed out of the network and that we need to work on. That gives us enough time to really go through it to make sure that, you know, we work out a lot of the glitches prior to opening, John.
Okay, thank you. So,
Any other questions on the update?
well, I was going to keep going.
Yeah.
So,
John.
Bob Pacheco, and Superintendent Swenson, does that July 8th date look good to you?
Yep. No, I'm totally good with that. I kind of asked that early on with Shane, so I'm good. Very happy to see that that's been implemented and gives us more time the better when it comes to those things. Because like Joe said, there's going to be a lot going on at that time, and then we're gonna be coordinating it all up, getting all of our teachers' items back into these spaces, which will include teacher setups and everything. So there's gonna be a lot going on at that time. More time, the better.
Yeah, John, the other part that I wanted to relate to is that substantial completion is contractor clean. It's not necessarily school clean. And that gives the custodians acclimated amount of time to be able to go into the classrooms and get it ready to the standard that, you know, they're used to. And broom sweep and general cleaning isn't the same as what, you know, Bob's crew will be doing. So it gives them that much more time to make sure, especially with all of the pandemic issues that are going on, it's going to give us that much more time to get the building clean and ready.
Hey, Joe, quick question on that. When you talk about the broom clean and stuff, I mean, that's kind of a vague thing, and I've been caught, I've been caught in certain scenarios where that, you know, we're gonna have 3 guys, we'll have 5 guys in there. One will be a head custodian at that time, and you know, doing a full complement of cleaning from July 8th to
Correct.
August. That's going to be a very tight time frame. And what exactly does broom clean mean?
So what I'd like to do, Bob, and prior to the substantial completion, I'll sit with you and the superintendent, and we'll go through, you know, they typically work their way out of a building, you know, typically second floor to first floor out to the outside street. During that process, you know, most of the time we get, you know, the IT and your staff involved in starting, you know, working on, you know, whatever portion of the building, or whether it's a wing or a level that we'll go through and clean once the general contract is done. We take control of that, and those doors are locked. In the event that a contractor has to go back there, we typically initiate, you know, a cleaning service that has to get implemented by the general contractor. In the event that they go in there and they don't clean the room to that level, the cleaning company would go in there and make sure it stayed at the level that we provided. So, you know, you're right. Broom clean, it's a vague, you know, interpretation is the word I want to use based on general contractor. And Gene and Jeff has done this long enough where their specifications are pretty detailed as to what the condition of those spaces should be prior to their final inspection for substantial completion.
Okay, yeah, because, those same 5 custodians who will be assigned to that building will be most likely be taking part in some of the moves that are taking place, so move teachers items as well. So
Right.
I'm gonna be pulling double duty, but
We will try to get
Sounds
a moving company involved as well. Off the state bid list, Sterling Movers have done a phenomenal job for us, moving, the district back. And that's teachers' belongings. They come up with a detailed, labeling, how we basically, label the room, the location, the teacher's belongings, and the location are in the room that it goes. So it goes pretty flawlessly. And we'll provide as much assistance with the custodians, because they are going to be overwhelmed getting a new building of this nature.
correct.
If
Sounds
I could,
good.
Mr.
Thank you.
Garish,
What was that, Derek?
if I could, just to Joe, it's just because this is somewhat unique in that this is not going to just be a one building move from one building to the new building. It's going to be a domino effect of moves. So this building that I'm currently in, the old high school, 166 Mount Prospect, that will be moved, K-2 anyway. Teachers will be moved over to the new building. We also need to move the 3rd grade to the Williams, and then move the 6 through 8 into this building. So that moving up to that July date helps us logistically on all those domino effect moves as well. So, and the assumption being that we would have to vacate this building before we do any of those other moves.
Right.
Understood.
And that sequence, I've done a lot of those. Medfield was probably my most complex, where we took the middle school and the high school. We actually swapped them over a Christmas break. So I know exactly the complexity and the difficulties with that. But I'll tell you, the project managers with Sterling and having the conversations early on, we can really put a good plan together.
Good.
So there's no doubt there'll be a lot of planning and pre-planning for that time. I just wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable with the 8th, because, shortly here, that's going to be locked into the contract that we issue and have the bidders sign. So, I think everybody's in agreement that that's a good date.
And John, what it does for you too is that in the event that something slides, you're still giving yourself, that timeline to be able to still meet, your deadline to getting the building ready. So that's the beauty of that as well.
All right, I didn't have any more questions on that. Does anybody else? All right. Okay, is that it, Michael and
Yeah,
Joe?
that's it. Until we get to, voting on the changes, I'll share whatever material for that.
Sure. All right, designer update.
Let's see. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. So Jeff can talk a little bit if anyone has any questions, but we're just on the glide path to finishing it up and getting it out to bid. So you're right, John. Any of these decisions we make are kind of cast in stone, when we make them. I think last time we had a long discussion about alternates, and I had sent out a packet a couple weeks ago, previous to the whatever meeting it was that got postponed till tonight. And if it's possible, I'd like to put a few documents up on the screen and just remind people of what the alternates that you're considering are. And Jeff's been identifying these in the documents, and kind of the only thing we need to know is, A, if you decide not to make them one of an alternate, you change your mind. We want to know that as quick as possible. And then for the ones that you do decide that you want to keep as add alternates, what the priority ranking is. And the sooner we know that, the better. I don't think the next scheduled meeting is, if I caught it right, was till October 27th or something like that.
No, there's actually one 2 weeks from now, Gene.
Oh, 2 weeks. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I was thinking, maybe it would make sense to have, something like a working group meeting, maybe next Wednesday, ahead of that meeting on the 28th to, get the list teed up for that meeting on the 28th.
Okay, that sounds fine. And I apologize, it was September 28th, not October 27th. The other, we had some questions that came in from a couple different folks on the committee regarding the HVAC alternates, in particular, how the system would work without the alternate and, how it would work with the alternates. And so we've invited Dominic Puniello from Garcia Gillespie back to this meeting. He's on the meeting for us. So, for designer update, that's kind of what we thought we'd do, is go through the HVAC and the alternates. If that's okay, I'd like to share my screen.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So everyone can see the screen. The first item I'm going to put up is a document that I had sent out, as I said, a couple weeks ago. And if anyone has any questions, we can come back to any of these. But there were 12 alternates that were discussed, potential alternates. And what I did is I highlighted the ones that the committee decided to create as alternates. And then over here, whenever we get to it, I've got a blank box where we can fill in whatever priority from 1 to 8.
Gene, you're not sharing yet, right?
Oh, I thought I was.
No, you weren't. There you go.
Hey, I was having fun looking at it.
Thanks.
So anyway, we had looked at 12 things. You identified 8 that you'd like to have as add alternates, and so I highlighted them in green. And then we have a blank box over on the right where someday we'll plug in a rank from 1 to 8. The only difference in what was sent out a couple weeks ago and what I have tonight is that Dominic had done a little more research on the cost of the UVC air filtering. And it's based on every district is now having this discussion. So there's a lot more kind of data out there. So where the price of this alternate last time we had it $75,266, which came from our cost estimator. Dominic suggested that it's $75K, but now we have to put all the GC overhead and profit and general conditions. So there's about a 14% multiplier. So what we had listed last time for this UVC filter was 75, and right now we think it's probably closer to 85. So
can I ask a question to Dominic? Dominic, you've done a lot of research on this recently, and I'm involved in quite a few of these discussions now, especially where they're under design. And it sounds like it's going to be, one avenue that many districts will be going down. But the way everything's evolving, do you think, getting the number as an alternate may be a great option, but it may not be the option of what to do, based on some of the, discussions of what's going to best work to try to, prevent the pandemic to continue through airborne filtration. Do you hear any other, alternatives other than this that are coming out?
The UVC is probably the most, data-wise shown to be the most effective in killing or eliminating, virus and bacteria. The other benefit of them is that they keep the cooling coil surface clean, which helps to continue maintaining its near new state efficiency. So that's the benefit of it. What has to be weighed is the cons, which are the additional maintenance cost, these emitters or light bulbs last roughly, 9,000 hours. So 24/7, that's about a year. On average school use post-pandemic, when you're not running things 24/7, they should get you about 2 years. It's pretty much the most tried and true and has the highest probably industry standard testing. Certainly not specifically against COVID. Those tests are ongoing, but other germs, bacteria, and virus, I would say it's a technology that's shown the highest level of effectiveness. The other lower alternatives is just to, as we're suggesting on the alternate above, is going to a higher MERV rating or efficiency rating of MERV 14, which is really being incorporated almost as a standard now on a couple of different manufacturers' offerings. And that's been the consensus from ASHRAE as a good point between filter efficiency while not having a excessive static pressure drop like HEPA filters would. You'd have a big fan energy penalty with the HEPA filters when doing it as a central approach. And that's going back to the UVC. That's one of the other benefits of it. It's got that germ kill capability, but doesn't have the excessive pressure drop and fan energy penalty that a HEPA filter would.
So this is John. So adding either or both of these two alternates, it doesn't impact the energy analysis for the building?
Be very minimal, negligible, I would think.
Great.
I think having it filter, the new technology, John, where they're making more transfer of air happening with the system would have more impact on the overall system than, these systems directly.
And we're not doing that though under this alternate, right? These two alternates. We're still maintaining the same level of outside air.
Correct.
Do we see any chance that there'll be a recommendation for more outside air, which would be a big factor for this system, right? Or any building system?
The recommendations right now, the proposed HVAC design would be in full compliance with those recommendations on the amount of outdoor air we're providing. I don't see anything recommending higher levels than that.
It's just more of them. All I'm saying is the sequence, if we're calling for 2 an hour, there may be more per hour required, that's all.
Dominic, I don't know if it's helpful, but I put up one of your slides you had sent us.
Right.
Talking about outside air and air changes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Gene. So again, it hasn't really been in the DESI or Massachusetts and the CDC fall reopening guidelines. There's not a specific recommendation for outdoor air changes per hour. But there has been, white papers and references made to CDC's guidelines for healthcare facilities. And a normal patient care room, the recommended CDC guideline for that would be 2 air changes per hour of outdoor air. So what this, exercise we went through just to go through all the spaces and typical spaces within the proposed design demonstrates that we're bringing in excess of the 2 air changes per hour of outdoor air to these spaces.
So air changes per hour is this nomenclature here, right? ACH. And if you just ran through like classroom 152 as a typical classroom, how would they read this going left to right?
So there'd be, the supply air into the room would be 680 CFM. And that's going to be a combination of recirculated air and outdoor air. And it's at a ratio of approximately 64% of outdoor air, which is 435 CFM of outdoor air provided to that classroom. So your total supply is a 680. That corresponds to 4.29 total air changes per hour. And the percentage of outdoor air would be represented by 2.75 air changes per hour of outdoor air.
Great.
And you are, it looks like you're kind of outdoor air, you're in the 2 to 3 full changes of outdoor air per hour. Is that
Yep,
right?
just over 2 to just under 3.
And that goes from, looks like cafeteria, gym, media center, so small rooms, classrooms, and those big rooms.
Dominic,
Dominic,
question
in
if I could?
Go ahead.
Yes, Bob.
Yep. So if we're exchanging that much air per hour, doesn't that reduce the effectiveness of the UVC, considering that it's mostly working cleaning recirc air?
Yeah, the more outdoor air you're bringing in,
Yeah.
the less, need for it to be cleaning.
Yeah.
But it does still have the benefit of all that air is going through your air handling unit, passing over cooling coils, heating coils, energy recovery filters. So that would be another, still be a benefit. Less effectiveness, but still a benefit because you'd be cleaning your coils.
Sure. So, I mean, so that's kind of like where the group was kind of hung up on at the last meeting. We were just kind of weighing the benefits of going with UVC or accomplishing similarly the same of by increasing the exchanges of air with a better filtration system. So we're kind of seeing like, which one should we go with, which direction. So I'm not sure if that's what everybody's looking for tonight.
If you go back, Gene, can you go back to the other air change per hour? So the other, recommendations that are going out there is, well, increase the outdoor air or open windows, just get more outdoor airflow. What I want to point out is that, these air handling units are not, they're designed for a percentage of outdoor air. So RQ 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 and 8, you could see it's not a full 100% outside air system. So you cannot just go to 100% outside air on these units if the weather is too cold outside or too hot and humid outside. Because if you did, your heating and cooling capacities of the air handling units don't match that amount of outdoor airflow. So you'll either get below temperature set points in heating or above temperature and humidity set points in cooling season. And if you were to over design for all these units to be 100% outside air, you would then have a big energy penalty.
Right.
So that's where, it's all well and good to increase the amount of outdoor air above the design. And even if you can, if outdoor air conditions allow, but what I wanted to just demonstrate with this is we're pretty much above the CDC recommendations for outdoor air in these areas. So to go above that, if you were to go above that, there's going to be an energy penalty. And I would think a more energy efficient way to get additional filtration effectiveness would be the MERV 14 and the UVC. If you wanted to go down that path. I'm not saying that's necessary.
Dom, could you remind me? I thought that the UVC would treat outdoor air and recirc, but is it just doing the recirc?
Well, if the units are in outdoor air mode, say it was a nice mild day where we're not in what's called economizer mode, we're not heating or cooling, these units would and should be operated as 100% outside air. So when that's in 100% outside air, certainly if you had the UVC energized, it would still be effective, but the very likelihood that, the pathogens are really coming from the outdoor air and originating out the outdoor air is probably much less likely than if it was in a recirc mode. So what we would typically do is if the UVC was selected and you were in that economizer mode, we would recommend de-energizing the UVC lights during that mode of operation.
Okay.
But you certainly could. You certainly could run it. It's just when you've got 100% outside air, the need to run the UVC is much less.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I guess, Dominic, then I do have a question because the answer that Jean included with question 2 seems to imply that you're recommending that the UVC treat the outside air. So I don't want to get bogged down in too much here, but what this translates to me is what's the benefit and then what's the maintenance cost. So if by treating it all the time, 100% outside air or the returned air, it's not going to increase the maintenance, then I don't see why it would be an issue. But I just want to know what we're getting or what we should expect. I don't disagree that right now there doesn't seem to be any need to treat the outside air, but you made the point that it helps keep the coils clean and so there is a benefit. So I'm just trying, maybe you could explain that or clarify that.
No, good, fair question. So, the outdoor air and the room return air, they mix. They will mix prior to passing over the UVC within the air handling unit. So we wouldn't put the UVC directly just on the outdoor air stream. We would put it after those two air paths, the outdoor air and the room return air combined. So it would typically be like at the cooling coil. So if the unit is in 100% outside air mode or a percentage return recirculated mode, the UVC could operate. All that I'm saying is if you wanted to, and so the maintenance cost of those is probably on the order of $7,000 a year to inspect and change the bulbs, figuring they last about 1.5 years. So the whole point would be in 100% outside air mode, it's less effective or there's less of a need for the UVC. As part of a sequence of operation, you could de-energize the UVC in those modes of operation really to extend the life of those emitters, those bulbs.
Got it.
Great.
Are there any questions from the committee? All right.
All right.
So I know that really helps me understand what we were getting. I know the last meeting I wasn't skeptical, but I just wanted to have a good baseline so we all understood what we were getting when we invoked those alternates. And I'm suspecting they'll be low on the list or high on the list, as the case may be. But no, I appreciate that explanation and the package you put together.
Oh, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity. One other comment on, I guess, alternate 12, which would be the MERV 13. what we're, as I mentioned earlier, some of these manufacturers are just kind of based upon ASHRAE's recommendation, are really almost incorporating this to be their standard design. So it's not all manufacturers doing it, but I just want to make aware that even if we spec MERV 13, you might end up getting MERV 14, even not without listing it as an alternate, because certain manufacturers, that's just their standard approach now.
Right.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here with Bob's money, maintenance money. $7,000 a year or a year and a half doesn't sound like a whole bunch of money for the protection we think we're getting, or, hoping to get. And it sounds like we may not have to pay much to get the extra filtration anyway. So I don't see a downside. There's no energy penalty. There's a minimal maintenance cost and a higher level of protection for what we're all trying to deal with going forward.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Dominic and Jean, quick question. Did you guys do a price on the replacement of the MERV 14s, 3 changes a year by any chance? As far as maintenance wise?
I haven't exactly, Bob, but what I'm being told, it's a 10% premium over the 13s.
Yeah. Which roughly you would say probably like 12 grand a year?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. Okay. So between the two, we're looking at 19,000. So just keep that in mind.
So, John, it's Mike Dolan. To Gene's earlier question and to what you just said, at what point do we want to rate these?
Well, let me give you my opinion. So I really think that the committee would best be able to deal with the ranking after we've had the benefit of the administration, a working group go through these with a design team, so that we're not trying to rank them in a committee meeting. That I would prefer to see something presented to us. Here's the order that the working group came up with, and then work from there. That's just my personal preference.
No, I think that makes sense.
I would
And
agree
that
with
would be
that
the
approach.
next
John.
meeting. I'm sorry, I talked.
I would
over.
agree with that approach, John.
Okay, great. All set, Michael? Okay. Are there any other questions on this this topic? If not, I think we can move on.
I will stop my sharing. So we're going to do a subcommittee of some sort to go through the alternates, right?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Great.
Yeah, Gene, I'll send out an email initiating that.
Sound good.
Gene, Ollie, Gene and Mike, if we could send the information out to the subcommittee, and if we've already done that, that's great. Just so that they have the information in front of them when we go to have the meeting, that's all.
Okay, so did you have any more on the designer update, Gene?
No, like I say, we're just in the home stretch of Jeff's doing a lot of coordination, a lot of double checking between the trades and the architecture, and trying to pull together the final bid set. So you've been there, right, John?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we had an item on the agenda, 100% construction documents work plan. So that's pretty much what you just described. You're you're into
What
the
I
final
can-
coordination sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. When you're done, I can maybe just get into the weeds just a little bit.
Sure.
What we're looking at, and as Joe had talked about, we had a discussion basically about not only how we get to the bidding process, but throughout the project and to substantial completion. But in our discussion, we talked about, okay, where we're at now. You know, we're at that, by the end of the month here, we're at that 98, 95% area there. All our consultants are required to be 100% complete at the end of the month. We do different levels of quality control and coordination for those next 3 weeks that are going through there. We do a quality control that runs through about the 20th, but what it is for example, and I apologize, we got a light fixture on the electrical, we got a heating panel in the ceiling, we got a sprinkler head, and we got to put it all together so it jives. And so that's our final coordination on our RCP plan, our reflected ceiling plan. So that's our final coordination and making sure that we have all our chases, all that type of stuff, and that everything fits.
Jeff, just to add to what you're saying, and I think it's even more predominant that the committee understand, is that we're doing all this through a pandemic and working remotely. So where we would collaborate within a conference room and pull a set of drawings up and really hammer the directives from each of the entities out, you don't have that liberty to do so other than, independently, and then try to merge them. So I can tell you, with every other project that I'm dealing with, the pandemic has had some influence as far as timing to get all this information done, doing it remotely. And I just want to make sure the committee understood that.
What we do, Dan, I have a milestone, an internal one, that it actually goes to the printer approximately the 20th. And what they do is they actually do almost like a clerical quality control, that they make sure all the specs jive with each other. All the pages are in the same order as the list of drawings. They check tags. They do a lot of that. And so we have 2 levels, and actually that's one of the benefits to this electronic bidding with this one. It's called, Bid Docs Online. They do a quality control there. And so they may comment to us, and we address that. But in the meantime, as Joe's team has already put together a review that we're actually addressing all those reviews and quality control on that. And so our point is that we're sending our final documents out on the 23rd, which is a Friday, to the printer, and they're available on the 27th to the bidders. Basically what that does is, if there's a speed bump, if they see something, whatever it may be, we got a full day to address it on Monday. And that was actually confirmed today with Laura at Bid Docs on the process.
Jeff's the guy. He's good at this. So, but it all boils down to, what are we, 4 weeks, we're out to bid, right, Jeff?
Correct.
Something like that. So,
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Especially for a municipal project where there's file sub-bids, so that coordination, they're bidding on the plans in front of them, right?
Yeah.
The electrical contractor, he's not going to bid on the light fixtures that might be shown on the RCP that aren't on the electrical sheet. So you have a higher threshold than a regular job to make sure that's all coordinated. So that sounds good, Jeff. So maybe Joe or Michael could just give us the short rundown of what happens once those documents go into electronic bidding and how it relates to the file subbidders and the general contractors, to the point where you know, you guys go through the process of
Yep.
validating that all of, you know, that it's a valid bid and come to the conclusion, you know, who the lowest bidder is. And, you know, the committee will then be coming together to vote on that, because this is a low bid solicitation, right? Maybe you could just give us the rundown on that.
Mike, would you like to start? And then
Sure, yeah, you can fill in where. So they get posted to bid docs after they review. You know, we also will be advertising in the Central Register, although we've already advertised in the Central Register through the pre-qualification process. So we already know who's going to be allowed to bid through that process, and they'll be looking out for it. But we're going to sort of do a belt and suspenders notification using that system again. So at that point, the documents are available to both the GCs and the subcontractors, but the subcontractors, or at least the file subbid subcontractors, bids are due a few weeks before the GCs. So those subcontractor bids come through, they'll be available for us, and they'll be then available for the GCs to review themselves and select who they want to carry as their bid within their bid and who they want to use on the project.
Mike, can I just intervene one part to that? When the file subcontractors are going to probably look at these documents, and there'll be some RFIs generated where the architect team will have to answer on that. Once they have all of that information, they will be submitting their bids. We have to, when we get those bids, we have to go through them to make sure that the content is accurate and double check, you know, their submissions and their qualifications to make sure that they're still capable of bidding the process. And at that step, we actually accept their bid as presented. And then we submit those accepted subcontractors to the generals for review at that point. And Mike's point is that the generals will at that point start to look at each of those file subs to see if they're entertaining the lowest contractor or they're picking another one for their most competitive bid. Sorry, Mike, I just wanted to make sure they understood
Yeah,
that.
no, that's right. Yeah, I skipped that process. So once the GCs have selected who they're going to carry for file subbidders, they price the rest of the project that the file subbid trades don't cover. That's kind of, I call them the private trades, and the miscellaneous gaps in the scope that they'll fill in self-performing. That becomes their overall bid. We do the same thing once we receive the overall bids that we did with the file subbids. You know, we check them to make sure there's no, you know, there's nothing that makes us have to disqualify them, and make sure they're complete bids, checking all the boxes. But, you know, in this case, like John said, this is a lump sum bid, and the low qualified bidder who satisfies, you know, all the requirements of the bid is who will be recommended to be selected. And that's in this meeting that we will do the final approval of that winning bid.
So that's scheduled for December 7th, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
correct.
when you come to us December 7th, you'll come with, well, the order of the bid, but it'll also, we'll be voting on hopefully accepting all the alternates.
That would
not,
be wonderful.
That, you know, that's a very important meeting for the committee to keep us on schedule. So I just wanted everybody to understand that.
That's right. Yeah, but depending on if we're over or under budget,
Right.
that will change how that meeting goes, and we'll know on the 3rd.
So John, at that point though, once we have that vote, we'll be collaborating with the lowest bidder and getting the bonds and information together so that we'll have that documentation in order so that the contract can be issued. Usually it takes at least a couple of weeks between town council and general contractors council to make sure that all the language is accurate through the contract that we're providing them. And then at that point, once all of the documents are signed, we'll probably have a kickoff meeting at that point. And the committee is more than welcome to attend it. We set the guidelines and parameters of what our expectations are, as well as what the architect's expectations are as requisitions and formality about schedules. So.
Joel, can I add something there? Just one of the things that's a benefit to bidding online is that you actually can, as an observer or a committee member, can go on and actually see where the bids are at. And as Joe said, is that once they're all reviewed, and there's been a double check between the architect and the OPM, we accept them. But you can see that day what the bids are, whether
Yeah,
it's the file sub bid date or the GC.
And the other portion of that is through DCAM, we got to go through and make sure their capacity is there. So that's one other step that we'll be doing during that, approval process, John.
All right, does anybody have any questions about the process or what's going to happen next?
Exciting times.
Oh, yeah. Kathy's going to be writing checks every month.
She's not going to have too many zeros on them now. We go through them extensively for the requisition, so she won't write a check unless the architect and ourselves are happy with it. So we don't like spending money. So
okay, yeah, I think that was a good overview. Just lets everybody understand the process because it is pretty convoluted for state contracting. Unless somebody has a question or comment or anything, we can move off of item 5. I'm not seeing everybody, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. All right, so thank you. Item 6, report of the communication group.
Yeah, the only thing we have to update on is we have our next group of frequently asked questions out for review at this point. I think those are with Gene right now, if I remember correctly. So once those are all set and ready to go, they'll be posted on the website. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Item 7, public comment. Man, a lot of quiet people today. Nobody?
they're very content.
Well, okay.
There's actually nobody on from the public, John, so.
Yeah, I know, but I just figured committee. Okay. Item 8, financial subcommittee formation update. That's kind of me. I really don't have an update other than if anybody else is interested, just let me know because, we're pretty much wrapped up. We have a few items here tonight, but we're pretty much wrapped up with the demolition. So we'll want to have that committee formed before the contract with the winning contractor gets signed. So, we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, we do. Since there'll be hardly any change orders, especially, John.
Yeah, well, we're getting all that checking done here. Jeff, the pressure is on you. Okay, number 9, approval of demolition change orders. And a vote is required. So I'm going to turn it back to Michael and let him go through this. There's one that's been updated. And then there's 2 from the prior meeting that we didn't vote on.
So I just shared my screen. This is the change request log for Venagro. You see that the change order 1 was the $26,000 cost for the fill. That's now voided. That's been replaced by change request number 4. So we already had 2 and 3 here. The 2, this $4,600 was for oil that was discovered in the existing elevator pit. It wasn't something that was foreseen to have been there after the elevator decommissioning, but it was. So that was removed, and we've got a recommendation from the design team to fill the pit with concrete. This cost covers both. And I should just say, all three of these costs have been reviewed by RDA and recommended to be approved. The next one is deleting the trackpad. This was something that was included in the spec for the demolition contractor. It's to create sort of a stone pathway at the very end of the site, at the gate, so that the mud doesn't get tracked from their tires onto the road. But we had such a good situation with such a sort of a long runway of pavement and not excavating, not removing the foundation. So we didn't have much of a mess, and we were able to not do this work, and they've offered back $4,000 for having not done that. And the next one is what replaced the fill cost. This is to just install, what the Bridgewater Fire Department called a visual barrier. We already have our site fence that's locked. We have our Jersey barriers that would stop any vehicle that made it past the site fence. And this snow fence, at the potential fall hazard line would sort of add that additional visual barrier that would stop any pedestrians who have somehow made it within the site fence. And obviously is a greatly reduced cost from the other solution. So, the same with all three of these. We recommend approval of these, and RDA takes no issue with what they've reviewed.
All right, I think we should vote on them individually, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, vote on them individually. So what we would do is, assuming these are approved with the vote, we would ask the contractor to proceed, but to take all three of these and create a single change order that we would then vote to approve that change order. And just to note, all three of these would be handled by a financial subcommittee, being under 25,000 if we had one. This is the kind of thing that wouldn't make it to this overall meeting until it was in the form of a formal change order.
Okay, is there any committee discussion or questions? Item 1 to 4 was a pretty big drop. We want to thank Councilor Rushton for that. Working with Bridgewater Fire Department.
That was great.
Yeah. So if there aren't any discussions or questions, I guess we could just make a motion to approve them individually. CR now, just reference the CR number and the amount.
That'd be great.
John, if I could motion to approve the elevator pit environmental and concrete fill for a cost of $46.45.
There a second?
Second.
Please state your name.
Lil.
Thank you.
Lil.
Any discussion? All right, take the roll.
Okay, John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh. I saw Harsh on here.
Yes.
Oh, thanks. Kathy,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Matt.
No.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
John, motion to approve CR number 3, delete trackpad. And I'm figuring that's a 4,000 back to us, so I'm unsure on the allocated cost to us actually.
The credit of $4,000.
Okay,
If you could just state your name when you make a motion, please.
sure. Matt Rushton, make a motion to approve CR number 3, delete trackpad.
This is Harsh. Second that motion.
Any discussion? All right, go with the roll.
John,
Yes?
Michael,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
John, Matt Rushton, motion to approve CR number 4, snow fence at ETR Foundation for the amount of $2,650.
This is Harsh. Second that motion.
Any discussion? All
John, I
right.
guess if I could, not to delay it any bit, but I'd also like to just thank the fire department for the reconsideration and the time spent to meet me back on site to really talk through this alternate solution to save the town some substantial costs. So thank you.
Yes, that was a great collaboration. And thank you.
More than welcome.
All right, well, let's take the roll.
John,
Yes?
Michael,
Yes.
Lillian, Lillian,
Hello, we can't hear you.
Harsh,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, great. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, approval of previous meeting minutes from August 24th.
This is Lil. Motion to approve the minutes from August 31st.
Matt Rushton, second.
Any discussion?
They were actually, John, sorry, August 24th, not 31st. My fault.
All right. Well, we'll take the roll.
John,
Yes?
Michael,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Matt.
Yes. If you said Pat, yes.
Thank you. The
The
motion.
Pat sounds like Matt. I keep answering to Pat, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, as long as the vote's
My
the
fault.
same, it doesn't matter.
All right, that was it, Josh?
Yeah, that was it. It was approved.
Okay, great. Item 11, so next school building committee meeting. So I wonder, Michael, if you could just, or Jean, or Jeff, just go through the upcoming meetings. We have 3 scheduled. I think we've already talked about, what we're going to do on the 7th. But what about September 28th and October 19th? What will the committee be seeing, or what will we need to do for those 2 meetings?
Yep. So I'll start. So on the 28th, assuming we coordinate the working group meeting to rank the alternates prior to that, ranking the alternates will be a part of the designer update. Our OPM update, by then we will have an update on the demo changes that were just voted on as far as the completion of that scope. We'll, reiterate the schedule and bidding dates, and we'll, after reviewing with RDA, talk a little more about the logistics and the construction signage, specifically for this group, the development of a graphic for the, for the construction sign itself that, sort of lists everyone on there. And, on the 19th, that's a very close date to the issuance of the bid set. So that's, I sort of put that there knowing that that can kind of be our, last time to catch anything that we might need that comes up after September 28th. And, we'll, being closer, we'll, have, those final design items to talk about. Gene,
So
I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
So let me ask, is there anything that we're doing on the 28th that can just wait until the 19th?
It cuts it pretty close with the alternates. I think RDA wants to be done with their set, the 20th and, out to bid docs on the 23rd to get their comments back. I think that probably cuts it a little close.
Yeah, the decision on the alternates, John, more than anything, that we just need to formalize them in the bid docs.
Yeah, because there's a whole bunch of people that have to coordinate, make sure all their sections align, John.
Sure.
It'll
Okay.
be a quick meeting.
The
All
other
right.
thing, with that, we'll have our first shot of that construction sign, and basically a lot of times that sign includes all the names of the building committee on that, or however you want to see that, but we'll have a copy of that for review. And by the 19th, you can make your comments back on what you'd like to see on that construction sign.
Okay. So it sounds like it's a necessary meeting on that date. So,
Go ahead, Joe.
all right.
Gene and Jeff, I just want to make sure that you put in the specs under signage for the general contractor, just street signage as you're entering the site. Sometimes, there's additional signage necessary, whether it says contractors enter here or contractors no jailbreak and whatever it might be, because there'll be a lot of activity coming in and out of that site. And we are in a neighborhood over in that location. The neighbors were excellent during the demolition that was going on, but I just want to make sure that we own enough signage so that when we request it, they're not hitting us for a change order. That's all.
Yeah, we can coordinate that with you, Joe.
Okay, great.
Okay. So on the 28th, we definitely have items that require a vote. How about on the 19th?
Likely not any items to be voted on,
Right.
except for the minutes, from the 28th.
Right. Okay. So it looks like the next two key meetings are the 28th and the 7th.
Unless MSBA gives us comments in between now and then, John. That's the only thing on the submission,
Okay.
in case we need some commentary back from the district. But we'll know pretty quick.
And I heard on December 7th, after the meeting, in lieu of going out for a beverage, the superintendent was just going to give us all a Lysol disinfectant wipe, a bottle of that. Is he still on? Is he on mute?
But
You got it. I got a case with your name on it, John.
With a little bow, thank you. I'm only kidding. It is crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. All right. I think it's pretty clear what we have to do for the next remaining meetings. Are there any questions or comments? All right. Item 12 is just additional committee discussion. It's actually a separate agenda item. Well-
John, the only thing, Jean, would you be able to forward me your presentation?
For this evening?
Yes, please.
Sure.
The updates, that would be great, just for the records.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, Gene, I don't know if that outside air chart was in the previous
Wasn't.
info. Yeah.
It was not, so I can, I have the three documents and they all got touched a little bit because the number and the alternate came up about $10,000.
Yeah, good.
So I'll resend all three to you, Lou.
Terrific, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I at least want to thank everybody for seeing this project through. It's coming down to the wire here. It's really the fun time, I think, for for the design team, because they're wrapping up all of their hard work, and you know, it's always interesting when you put it out to bid, because you find out how good it is or how bad it is. I shouldn't have said how bad it is, but you know, if there's any little wrinkles that somebody could make hay with, you know, you hear about it, and you're always wondering when you send it out. So this is a good sized project, and we have good pre-qualified contractors and trade subbidders. So I think we're in really good shape, and just wanted to thank RDA and CHA/DP. I forget. Yeah.
DPI.
Yeah, DPI. So
No, you're right, John. I mean, it's a tremendous, I mean, everyone on this meeting, right, has been working on it for a year. So it is a big relief when it finally goes out to bid, and it'll be fun when the steel starts going up. You know, that's when it's really pretty fun.
yeah.
And Shane did just text me and just wanted to wish everyone well.
Oh,
Cool.
thank you.
Cool. Tell him we're thinking about him.
I tell him every day he's not here with me.
Any way we can trade you back for Shane or what?
Yeah, I'll ask that question for him.
Tell him I miss his accent, and he's going to say, what accent?
You got that right.
I guess you're Cam Newton, right? We got rid of Tom
There
Brady.
you go.
Tell him no Clorox wipes. He left before the project was finished.
Oh yeah, he gets half a bottle, half a can. I wanted to ask Michael Dolan about public, you know, the public information, public outreach or whatever. Is there anything you're thinking or the team needs to support between now and the time it actually goes out to bid for the communication committee?
Yeah, we haven't, given the circumstances we're in, we haven't discussed public meetings other than these. So, I mean, we can, once we get the 100% out there and we get those bids back. I'm just not sure how well those would be attended, because they're not in person. There's no, people really can't get up close and personal to drawings, but we can definitely look at it.
No, I just meant, you know, if there's anything we want to do different, you know, like when you click on the website, you know, like balloons could come down, you know, it's a bid. Yeah, I'm getting crazy here.
I am so glad we're recording this meeting to have watched you just do that.
You know, it's a boy, it's a girl.
We can work on that. We'll work on balloons.
Or confetti. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. We'll take a look.
All right, I'll let everybody go. Well, that's all I had. Again, thank you to the team and everybody who's volunteered and made this happen.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Well, I guess we got a vote
Motion to adjourn.
right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
This is Mike. Motion to adjourn.
Matt Rushton, second.
Aye.
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.
Have a great night.
Everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.